About 10 years ago, I had a client who was a middle-aged woman who came out of a very abusive relationship with a man. I don't know if she was married. I know that she lived with him for years, and that he was physically and psychologically and emotionally abusive to her in terrible ways. The client was separated, and I don't know the full backstory except that she was moved to an apartment where she lived by herself. We got a referral for her for services from an MHMR social worker who reached out to us to try to connect us with her for, again, services. But there was a special request that came through from this social worker who requested a female case manager because of the client's backstory, because of her abuse. And the client just had a general fear of men as a result of the abuse that she had experienced. And as I came to know about her story, it really upset me. I mean, it was made me angry that she would have to go through something like this. And unfortunately, there's evil in the world. I mean, it's out there, and there are evil people that will do despicable things and will treat people like less than a human, very abusive, very controlling. But the request came through for us to provide a female case manager. Now, the client lived in my area, and I work for an agency where we break it up by region in the county. And this client was in my area, but I went to this other caseworker, gave her the backstory, and told her, hey, look, this is a special situation. Would you mind going a little bit out of your way and, serving as her caseworker? And this caseworker I worked with, lovely woman. I mean, really professional, like me, someone who took her Christianity seriously. And so she goes out and she connects with this client and wound up being her caseworker for about 8 months, if I remember correctly. Well, after that period of time, the MHMR social worker thought that a little exposure therapy would be good for the client, and had talked with the client about this and said, look, we live in a world, there are men, you have to encounter them, you can't hide out in your apartment forever, we can get services to you, but even then some of the people that come out are men, so we need to address this. So the MHMR social worker reached out to me and said, hey, would you mind transitioning over to be her case manager? And I said, well, if it's with her consent, if she is okay with this, then I'm glad to be part of the solution here. So I get out to the client's home, and it's me, the MHMR social worker, my coworker, who had been her case manager again for about 8 months, and then the client. Now, when I'm in the home, I am going out of my way to be as kind, as gentle, as patient as I need to be with this person to let her know that I'm safe, because that's kind of the first order of business. She needs to know that I'm safe. So I visit, we're there in the home for about 30 minutes, and finally the client consents and says, okay, I'm okay with this. So we wrap it up, I leave. And over the next year, I have regular interaction with this client. Now, I'm required to go out and see her as part of my job. I'm required to go out and see her once every 3 months because we do quarterly recertifications at the time. So these were obligatory. But I would do reassurance visits if I was in the neighborhood, just check in on her, let her know, hey, I'm here. Is there anything you need? What was interesting was over the period of about a year that I was going out to visit with the client, when I would knock and she would open the door, she would open it about 6 to 8 inches, and basically I would see her head. And she would interact with me. Now, that was her safe place. That was where she felt comfortable to meet me, and I'm going to respect that. So I wound up having these ongoing visits. Well, one day I come out, I knock on the door, and she opens the door all the way, almost fully open. And I can tell she's been crying. It's obvious that she's been crying, and she looks distressed. And I looked past her shoulder into her living room of her apartment. She was on the first floor, and I saw towels on the floor. I saw blankets. paper towels everywhere. Apparently there was a water pipe that had burst in the apartment above and had come down and had flooded her apartment. So caused some damage to her furniture. She was upset also because she knew that some maintenance men were going to have to come out and either replace the carpet. Obviously they were going to have to fix the plumbing leak, but they were going to have to spend some time in her apartment replacing the carpet or drying it out at least. So while the client's telling me this, she mentions that her microwave got damaged as well, that it's not working. Well, the company I work for, the nonprofit agency that I work for, we have microwaves that we give away. We have other appliances that we give out to our clients. We keep them in stock. We buy them new. We pass them out as needed. So I told her, I said, look, I said, we just happen to have some new microwaves in stock. Saw them in our inventory recently. And I said, I would be glad to bring you one tomorrow morning, if that's okay. And I think it was a Wednesday that I was coming out. So we stood there in her door for a few seconds and had a blinking contest, and she was processing it, and finally she goes, you would do that for me? You would do that for me? And I said, absolutely. I said, is there anything else you need that I can bring out? And she said, not that I can think of. And I said, okay, well, let me go, and I'll run back to the office. I'll get the microwave, keep it in my car, bring it out to you tomorrow morning. So I said, okay. So I left. Next morning, I get out to her apartment. She opens the door wide, lets me in. It's the second time I've been in her apartment, fully inside. So I get in there and I go into her kitchen. And again, I'm doing everything that I can to be as patient, as gentle, as kind, as soft-spoken, as non-threatening as I can be, as safe as I can be to her. And so I get in the kitchen and the microwave's damaged, and it was an older microwave, probably needed to be replaced anyway. So I pull it off the counter, put it on the floor, unbox the new one, get it out, put it up on the counter, take the tape off the little round glass tray, set it in there. I'm setting up the clock, and I set the manual off to the side, and I'm showing the client how to use the microwave. I said, here's the defrost, here's the cook, you can do the time setting. Here's a 30-second quick button that you can hit a couple times if you just want, sort of a quick and easy button to hit. And as I'm showing her this, she looks at me and she starts crying. And she says, I can't believe that you would do this for me. And I said, you know what? I said, I'm here for you. I'm here to try to help you and to, improve the quality of your life as best as I can. So I talked with her for just a minute and took her microwave, put it in the box, boxed it up, was going to run it out to the trash for her. And again, she's somewhat emotional with me. And from that day onward, she would open the door wide when I came to visit with her. There were a few other occasions that she would let me in. And I capitalized on that moment because it was one of those things where it was just like this one act of kindness, this one tangible expression of kindness. I mean, it was a microwave. It's not that big a deal. But in her world, somebody cared enough to meet her need, to listen to her, and to help meet her need. And so bringing out this small thing for her was a tangible expression of kindness. Now, a passage that I think about when I've thought about this client on several occasions, it's in 1 Thessalonians 5:14, where Paul says, encourage the faint-hearted, help the weak, be patient with everyone. Again, encourage the faint-hearted. This woman had suffered some abuse in her life, and she needed an extra dose of kindness. She needed an extra dose of love. She needed something that would encourage her and build her up and not tear her down like she had experienced before. So Paul says, encourage the faint-hearted, help the weak. This woman was in a place where she was feeling vulnerable, and life had run her down. And so, to help her, to provide this need for her was an expression of love. And then he says, be patient with everyone. And it took me a while. It took me a while to work with her to look for that little window of opportunity, because you've got to be patient when you're dealing with people. You can't rush through some of these things. You have to let them open up at their time and their pace. And then another passage, Paul says in Galatians 6:2, he says, bear one another's burdens and thereby fulfill the law of Christ. Bear one another's burdens. And she was dealing with some burdens at that moment. And for me to step in and to try to help her, again, it was a very tangible expression, but in her world, it mattered to her. It was significant to her. Now, from that day onward, again, I sought to capitalize on those moments, that if she told me she needed something, if she needed socks, I'd put in a special request for some socks. If she needed help with a utility bill, I would either bring it to my supervisor and say, hey, can we help with this? Or I would try to connect her with an agency in the community that would help her. So again, it was one of those things where you look for those little opportunities where you can be kind, where you can encourage somebody, where you can help them in their situation. And this is Steve, as the Christian, taking the Word of God and the values and the things that are set forth in the Word of God and giving it shoe leather, applying it to real people in real life situations.